Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
You appear to accuse President Obama of the biggest political crime in American history by far. Those were your words. What crime exactly are you accusing President Obama of committing, and do you believe the Justice Department should prosecute him?
Obamagate. It's been going on for a long time. It's been going on from before I even got elected, and it's a disgrace that it happened. And if you look at what's gone on, and if you look at now all of this information that's being released, and from what I understand, that's only the beginning. Some terrible things happened, and it should never be allowed to happen in our country again.
I said earlier this week about the Russia investigation, quote, "You really have to be trying to look away to say there's no evidence of collusion here."
Look away!
Now, as far as the public knows, we've seen evidence of Russian hacking, according to the intelligence community. We've seen the Russians dangling these emails.
Oh, you almost had it. You've got to be quicker than that.
And we've seen members of the Trump team expressing willingness to get dirt on Hillary Clinton from the Russians.
What part of Russia are you from? Moscow.
But we haven't seen the actual connection. We haven't seen an actual proof of cooperation and collusion. So what am I missing here?
Scotch. Scotchy, Scotch, Scotch.
Well, you know, I think you have to look at the pattern and the chronology. You have in late April the Russians approaching the Trump campaign and saying, we have stolen Hillary Clinton emails.
Sneaky fucking Russian.
You have only weeks later the Russians making another approach to the campaign, this time at the highest levels, offering dirt on Hillary Clinton.
Sure.
The campaign already on notice that they have emails. You then have a message going back from the campaign to the Russians, basically, we would love to have your help, we'd love to play ball, but we are really disappointed in what you gave us.
This is shit, and this is shit, and this is shit, it's all shit!
And only days later, Julian Assange announces he's received stolen emails, which we know now came from the Russians.
I have a job for you.
The Russians themselves start publishing the emails through these cutouts. You then have Trump Jr. in private secret communication with WikiLeaks. So we have all of these facts in chronology. You'd have to believe that these were all isolated incidents, not connected to each other. Just doesn't make rational sense. But we do know this. The Russians offered help. The campaign accepted help. The Russians gave help, and the president made full use of that help. And that is pretty damning, whether it is proof beyond a reasonable doubt of conspiracy or not.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Let me start with the president's tweets yesterday. This idea that maybe President Obama ordered an illegal wiretap of his offices.
You did or would know? You would know if actually that was happening?
Jim, as I said, I'm not here to talk about classified information.
I was just going to say, if the FBI, for instance, had a FISA court order of some sort for a surveillance, would that be information you would know or not know?
Yes.
You would be told this?
I would know that.
If there was a FISA court order
Yes.
on something like this?
Something like this, absolutely.
Do you know who I am?
And at this point, you can't confirm or deny whether that exists?
I can deny it.
There is no FISA court order?
Not to my knowledge.
The FISA warrant was authorized once and reauthorized 3 more times, Brooke, by federally appointed judges. No.
F&A, Cotton, F&A.
It's been pretty much exactly a year since this dossier first was made public. But it seems like increasingly its role as a political component of this story seems to increase. And the role of its creator, Christopher Steele, and the people who hired Christopher Steele, Fusion GPS, is very much the center of a political debate. So last year, the Senate Judiciary Committee brought Glenn Simpson, the founder of Fusion GPS, to testify about the role he played and the role Christopher Steele played in putting together the dossier and getting it to the FBI.
You stink. We now know that the dossier, bought and paid for by Hillary with salacious lies,
Get back, witch!
was used to get a FISA warrant against
Well, yes, we now know that it was either in part used or it was a significant part of the FBI being able to get the warrant to spy on Trump and people within his campaign.
The law firm that represented both the Democratic National Committee and the Hillary for America campaign has confirmed that it paid Fusion GPS in April of 2016 to perform a variety of research services. Until now, some top Clinton campaign officials have denied knowing who was behind the effort to dig up dirt.
I can deny it.
Spokesman Brian Fallon.
I'm sure that there was a small group of folks that were aware of the nature of the decision to hire Fusion back in the spring of 2016, but it was kept for reasons that I can understand to a very select group, given the sensitive nature of who they hired.
But Sean, when you're looking at the dossier, and I think actually leaking Glenn Simpson's testimony actually backfired on the Democrat.
Best moves.
I mean, it really did. You look at that testimony, you see to yourself, first, Glenn Simpson said there was a source inside the Trump campaign. That's proven to be false.
Steele came to believe that the FBI had some inside source who was giving them information about the Trump campaign in Russia. What we know now, though, is that the so-called inside source was actually the Australian diplomat, Alexander Downer, who passed information to the FBI in the summer of 2016. That information came during a session of drinking with a campaign aide, George Papadopoulos.
Now, what people have corrected that version of it and said, well, no, he was just talking about George Papadopoulos in London. Then you find out that Glenn Simpson wouldn't answer any questions as to whether he was pushing this dossier to the media. He kept stepping back. He wouldn't answer it.
I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Co-founder Glenn Simpson pleading the fifth in a closed-door meeting with the House Judiciary Committee.
I mean, first of all, you don't take the fifth unless you have a reasonable belief that you have some criminal liability. Glenn Simpson obviously believes he has criminal liability. He wouldn't exercise his Fifth Amendment right.
Anything you say, fifth. Go ahead, ask me a question. Did you? Fifth. I have a secret document that I think you need to say.
Then we find out he didn't even verify the information in the dossier.
What? What an idiot. Oh, what a loser.
And when you look at all of this, knowing that the Hillary Clinton campaign and the DNC actually paid for this dossier, and that the dossier itself could have been part of a ginormous, a huge.
That is a huge problem.
Huge disinformation came by the Russians. I mean, it's clearly there's a problem.
I've lost the bleeps, I've lost the sweeps, and I've lost the creeps.
The what? The what?
And the what? You know, the bleeps, the sweeps, and the creeps.
Deputy Director of the FBI, McCabe, testified before your committee
Fixing to commensurate this trial here.
in December of 2017 that no surveillance warrant, no FISA court, to the FISA court would have been sought without the Steele dossier information. Is that true?
That's a characterization. It's not what Director McCabe or Deputy Director McCabe actually said.
Well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
There were 17 violations that Mr. Horwitz found, but I can't stress enough to the country that he found the most egregious of all.
This is egregious. Do you hear me? Egregious!
The dossier was the only reason the Carter Page warrant was issued to begin with. And in January 2017, the man who provided Steele with all the information told the FBI it was a bunch of garbage, and they used it twice more.
Oh, great Odin's raven.
What kind of country is this? What happens to people who do that? Did you know that? You didn't know that, did you?
No, sir.
Do you think McCabe knew that?
I hope not, Senator. I do not personally know.
Was he in charge of the investigation?
Yes, he was.
Did he ever lie to you?
Mr. McCabe, I don't believe, Senator, that there were any occasions in which I identified that he lied to me.
What? Okay. Did he ever say anything, looking back, that is perplexing to you?
that's a very broad question, Senator. I had a lot of
Do you
conversations.
think he was truthful to you?
I believed, Senator, that Mr. McCabe was not fully candid with me. He certainly wasn't forthcoming. In particular, Senator, with regard to Mr. Comey's memoranda of his interviews with the president and with regard to the FBI's suspicions about the president, Mr. McCabe did not reveal those to me for at least a week after he became acting director, despite the fact that we had repeated conversations focusing on this investigation.
It's becoming clear that a lot of the secrecy surrounding these activities is designed not to protect the United States from foreign threats, but to protect the misdeeds of the people gathering the intelligence.
Nothing to see here. Please disperse. Nothing to see here, please.
It's CYA.
Yes, it does seem that has become a big part of the operation. Whether people got in over their head, whether they were led astray by Brennan and they did things that maybe they shouldn't have done, it does seem that a lot of what we've seen in the last few months is about attempting to keep people from finding out the full extent of what was happening.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
Today, the New York Times did report, based on just a widespread leaking from people who were involved in the investigation, that yes, people are now admitting they were spying on the Trump campaign in
Right in the testicles.
fairly widespread fashion. It wasn't just Carter Page, it was 4 top officials.
My love for you is like a truck berserker.
Wiretaps, they were also using national security letters.
Would you like some making fuck berserker?
That's fucking funny, man.
Did he say making fuck?
And human intelligence, at least one human intelligence source. So this is busting wide open, and I think people will start demanding a little bit more in terms of just what the FBI and other intelligence agencies were thinking when they began spying on the political campaign of a major party.
Would you like to suck my cock, berserker?
That's beautiful, man.
I think there are lots of questions people have, which is why I've worked so hard to try and be transparent. There's never been this kind of transparency in a criminal case, ever. But because I understand the questions and the importance of it, I've tried. But I hope people will separate 2 things: questions about facts and judgment from questions and accusations about integrity. As I said before, you can call us wrong, you can call me a fool. You cannot call us weasels. Okay, that is just not fair. And I hope we haven't gotten to a place in American public life where everything has to be torn down on an integrity basis just to disagree. You can disagree with this. There is just not a fair basis for saying that we did it in any way that wasn't honest and independent. That's when I get a little worked up, sorry.
About the controversial text messages, we just received a lot more up on Capitol Hill today. If you knew back then, when you were in charge of the investigation, and you saw those texts between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, the level of animus they had against President Trump.
Peter Strzok, quote, Bernie Sanders is an idiot like Trump. Oh, Trump's abysmal. I keep hoping the charade will end and people will just dump him. Lisa Page, God, Trump is a loathsome human.
Loathsome, offensive brute. Yet I can't look away.
Word, Cotton.
Peter Strzok, oh my God, Trump is an idiot. Page, also, did you hear Trump made a comment about the size of his, I'm not going to use the word, it rhymes with wang.
Wang! Pay attention.
I was distracted by that enormous flying...
Willie. Yeah. What's that? Well, it looks like a giant... Johnson. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you say you didn't push back when he said he hoped you could see your way clear of letting Flynn go, that he was a good guy, hope you can let it go. You said you didn't push back and that he should have known that he couldn't do that. All right, so let's assume that's true, that he should have known that. Is it possible there was another reason why you didn't push back, and that is that you wanted to keep your job?
It's possible, but it's not the case. At least I don't remember thinking about that at the time. Trump.
So Peter Strzok interviews Hillary Clinton, deals with the bleach bit and the server and Cheryl Mills.
Mr. President, when did you first learn that Hillary Clinton used an email system outside the U.S. government for official business while she was Secretary of State?
At the same time.
Everybody else learned it through news reports.
Cheryl Mills, Clinton's chief of staff at the State Department, knew the president had received work emails from Clinton's personal email address. Mills writing on March 7, 2015, quote, "We need to clean this up. He has emails from her. They do not say state.gov.
What? Inconceivable!
After Mills sounded those alarm bells, 2 days later, White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest tried to clarify.
The president was not aware of the fact that this was a personal email server and that this was the email address that she was using exclusively for all her business.
She's gone from suck to blow.
A previous WikiLeaks dump revealed that on March 4th, 2015, after a subpoena had been issued by Republican Trey Gowdy, chair of the Select Committee probing Benghazi, for Clinton to preserve all emails, Mills received a note from campaign chairman John Podesta marked special category. Podesta writing, "Think we should hold emails to and from the president? That's the heart of his executive privilege."
So Peter Strzok interviews Hillary Clinton, deals with the bleach bit and the server and Cheryl Mills, all of that, interviews Michael Flynn, and is integral in this whole case.
But he's one of many other people involved in all the things you just ticked off. It's a reasonable question to ask, and I can tell you this. When I saw the text, I was deeply disappointed in them, but I never saw any bias, any reflection of any kind of animus towards anybody, including me. I'm sure I'm bad-mouthing those texts. I'm just not going to read them all. Never saw it, but that's why we had such a big team of people.
Well, you were in charge
to bang on each other.
So the buck stops with you.
Of course.
Okay.
Partner-wise, I taste shit.
This morning, the president also said this on Fox and Friends.
You look at the corruption at the top of the FBI, it's a disgrace. And our Justice Department, which I try and stay away from, but at some point I won't.
What do you think he meant there?
60% of the time, it works every time.
That doesn't make sense.
I don't know. I hope he didn't mean that he's going to decide by executive fiat to direct the actions of what is supposed to be an impartial law enforcement function. Lady Justice has a blindfold. It should stay on.
They're so eager to convict the president despite having no evidence. I mean, they were never concerned about being credible. They just wanted to get Trump.
Anybody from that cabinet, in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
And I release you. If they did care about impartiality, then they would have taken more care in reporting the story. And like we did, they would have made sure to get the facts right. And by the way, they would be just as eager to probe the real scandal, which is the one that lies with Comey, Hillary Clinton, and the FBI.
The problem I had reading the text, I'm sure you've had the same challenges. If anybody pulled any of your listeners' texts or viewers' texts and there's no context, it's hard to figure out what they're talking about.
The coyote of the desert always likes to eat the heart of the young, when the blood drips down to the children for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and only the ribs will be broken in two.
Dino.
So
There's a lot of text. There's a lot of context with those guys.
Well, the ones I've looked at, I've had a hard time figuring out.
You fucking crazy, man. You sound insane. Do you realize that? You should be medicated.
So we now find out that it was indeed the unverified and fake dirty dossier that was paid for by crooked Hillary Clinton and the
slippery,
moist,
juicy, slippery,
moist,
juicy
DNC that was knowingly and falsely submitted to FISA and which was responsible for starting the totally conflicted and discredited Mueller witch hunt. But for one, what we know and what we don't know as far as the approval of that third FISA renewal application for Carter Page. Obviously, this is going to come up. Rosenstein has gone on the record saying that he didn't recall knowing about the political nature of the Steele dossier when signing the Carter Page FISA renewal application.
You signed a warrant application in June of, I think, 2017 to get the Carter Page warrant renewed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Have you looked at the Horowitz report?
Yes, I have. I have it with me, Senator.
If you knew then what you know now, would you have signed the warrant application?
No, I would not.
And the reason you wouldn't have is because Mr. Horwitz found that exculpatory information was withheld from the court. Is that correct?
Among other reasons, yes.
Yeah,
sir.
and somebody actually altered an email.
Correct.
Right.
Kevin Kleinsmith expected to plead guilty at a hearing tomorrow at the D.C. District Court. He is accused by John Durham of falsifying emails so that the FBI could monitor former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. He has admitted it.
I mean, you're investigating a presidential campaign, for God's sakes. Duh. Don't you think, before you signed off on the third warrant, that you ought to take a look? Unless somebody briefed me on the Steele dossier.
Man, what is he doing? Come on, man. Man, what is he doing? Come on, man.
I mean, by now, you guys, he should have told the FBI, I've had a chance to figure out, is it accurate? Is it accurate? Now, if he didn't ask that question, I want to know why. Because he's a smart man. Rod's a very smart guy. And you can't plead ignorance, not when you're captain of the ship.
This isn't the real Caesar's Palace, is it?
What do you mean?
Did Caesar live here?
No.